Good afternoon, everyone. I do hope you are having a good day. I thought I'd touch base with you before I go out on my walk. I'd like to talk to you today about Relationships 101, and our topic today is the power of giving. Subtopic: give or take. Okay, so the definition of relationships, as we have explored in previous episodes, is the way in which two or more people or things are connected, or the state of being connected. And to give means to freely transfer the possession of something to someone. Okay? So we're going to talk about giving today. Um, Before we carry on with this, again, a gentle reminder: go ahead and subscribe, share, like. Um, if there are any topics that you'd like me to cover, please mention it in the comments box, and we can definitely look into that for you. So thank you for subscribing in advance. So start off with a story. So last year October, my brother came over from Canada to visit. It was like a whistle stop, a really quick trip into the UK. So we stopped over in London to see the sights, and we ate loads. But on one night, so we'd done like some touring during the day, and one night we got back home. I was so tired. He works hard. He's a workaholic. So we got back home, and he went on his laptop and was doing some work. I fell asleep because it was nighttime for me, but I think maybe he was on a different time zone because he was working. But I fell asleep, and I kept waking up. I wanted to have a hot drink. I needed a cup of tea. So I kept expressing that desire to get up and go make myself a cup of tea. But then I'd fall asleep. So I'd wake up, and it just happened a couple of times. And then whilst I was like sort of groggy, I just saw him get up, go to the kitchen, turn on the kettle, and made a cup of tea. I thought he was making it for himself. But I was a bit surprised because he doesn't really drink tea. And then he brought the tea to me. He actually got up to go make the tea for me. And to me, that was so precious. It was such a kind thing to do. And it was his way of giving to me. And it made such a difference to me. He thought it was just something small. But to me, it made all the difference. His act of service just made me feel so loved in that moment. It was amazing. And I was so grateful and expressed my gratitude to him. So, in relationships, sometimes people go into relationships with the idea or with the motivation of getting, but this is not the sole purpose of relationships. You should go into a relationship with the intention to give. And my understanding as it relates to giving is that it's an act of free will. It involves the process of releasing something that belongs to you to another individual, with the primary motivation of expressing love. So when giving is done for any other purpose other than love, it opens or makes room for manipulation. So unless you're in business, if you're given in a relationship and you're doing it for any other motivation apart from love, it does open or make room for manipulation, and that's not what you want in a relationship. Okay, so why should you make giving and not getting a priority in your relationship? I'll just give you some thoughts around that. So first, giving should be the focal point in every relationship because it creates a reservoir of love within the relationship. So imagine that your partner perhaps has been in various relationships, and they've arrived at your doorstep. They've stopped with you, and they are completely depleted from the drama that has happened in previous relationships. And one way that you can help build them back up as an individual is to give to them freely from a place of love. And what that does is that it helps to build them back up, and it creates this reservoir of love within the relationship, because once they are full, they are able to pour into the relationship and to pour into you. And if you have any children, they'll pour into them as well because they're full from your giving. Another reason why it is important to cultivate giving and not getting in a relationship is because it helps the giver to see outside of their own needs and wants. Giving has the power to transform a person from being a selfish person to being a more selfless person, which is it's a better state of being. When you come into the presence of someone who is given, they're more wholesome, they're more loving, they're just nicer to be around as opposed to somebody who just wants to just get. Being around such a person could just make you feel drained because their motivation is to get, and that's just draining. Okay, it is important to know that although it is more blessed to give, there are more benefits associated with giving. Um, there are more benefits associated with giving. However, in a relationship, it's important that both parties give to each other, because if one party just concentrates on just giving and the other party does all the receiving, eventually the giver will become depleted. So if you have a situation whereby both parties give freely and lovingly, it helps to fill both parties up and creates that reservoir within the relationship where you can both um, from pour from the love that you feel from each other into that relationship, into your offspring, into other people outside of your relationship, because you're both full. Okay, so giving it's the best. It's something to be cultivated within your relationship, and there are various ways and various things that you can give to your partner, and I'm going to share those with you. So one of those ways, obviously, is your heart. When I say obviously, perhaps it's not so obvious. Some people go into relationships for various reasons, but the most priceless gift that you can give to your partner is your heart. And when you found somebody, obviously your heart is something that is very precious. So it's not something to just be given away without thought, without consideration. But once you found that special someone who you feel like you're going to spend the rest of your life with, perhaps you're married to them, and you give your hearts to them, that's the most precious gift that you can give a person. I heard Cora Jakes, the daughter of T.D. Jakes, say, when you're in a relationship, you give the other person power to hurt you, but you hope that they don't. So giving your heart does make you vulnerable. So you want to make sure that you give your heart to the right person, because it involves a whole lot of vulnerability. So you want to make sure you do that to the right person. But giving your heart, that's a gift, and that's a way that you can give to your partner, because it helps you to be vulnerable, helps you to be open with them, which creates intimacy within the relationship, which is what people want in relationships. You don't want a cold relationship. You want to be intimate in a relationship. You want to know each other deeply. So you're not workmates, you're not housemates, you're not business partners. You know each other on a more intimate level because you've given your heart to each other. Another way that you can give in relationships is a listening ear. So, in a relationship, you can provide a listening ear. You can be a sounding board for your partner to share their ideas, their thoughts, their dreams, their fears, their concerns. You can be that safe place. You can provide a listening ear to your partner in a relationship. So that's another way of giving. So when they've had a hard day, or they're having challenges, or they have issues that they just want to just process because it's perhaps congested in their mind, you just need somewhere to just voice those thoughts and those ideas, because sometimes when you've spoken those words, and it helps you to see with a different perspective. So if you can provide a listening ear, that's a way of giving. You're giving of your time, you're giving of your ears. Then following up from that is, sometimes they might need loving advice or suggestions. So once you've listened to them, you're in a better position to offer your ideas, your suggestions, and that could be of help. They could decide to use it. They could decide to take parts of it. They could decide to tweak it. But the first step is listening, and then you're in a better position to provide advice, to provide suggestions to them. Okay. Then going on from that is, you could give them your skills. So if there's a particular area that you're skilled in, perhaps you're skilled in financial matters, or you're skilled in documentation, like drafting documents, or you're skilled in communication. There are some skills that you might have. Maybe you're skilled in the particular area of work that they are involved in, and you can offer those skills to them. to make sure that they are protected, to make sure that people out there, like in the world, don't actually take advantage of them. So if you have any skills that you can provide to them, then go ahead and do that. That's also a way of giving. You can also give money and material items. This is the most common, but you'll find a lot sometimes, like some wealthy people might give like their spouses gifts. They can give them gifts, but that's not what the spouse actually wants. They want their time. So you have to know what your spouse wants. So, but that's not to say that money and material things are not important. For some people, that's important. So you can get a mix of people. Some people like thoughtful gifts, others like more expensive gifts, others like a blend between the two. So sometimes they like you to be thoughtful with your giving. It could just be something small. And other times, maybe it's their birthday, or they want you to just go out of your way and you give them something more expensive to let them know that they are important to you. Some people like a blend or a mix between the two. But it's important that you don't limit giving to just money and material things. That's the most focused upon. That's the part that's the most focused upon, but it's really the smallest or the lowest out of all the things that I've mentioned. And these are just some ideas and ways that you can give. But it's important to note that when it comes to giving, your partner will actually let you know what they need from you. So a lot of the time you don't have to guess. They will let you know what they need from you. And if you can listen and observe, you'll know what they need, and then you'll be in a better position to give to them from a position of love. Okay? Because love is crucial when it comes to giving. So how do you give in relationships? These are some thoughts that I'd like you to consider. So when it comes to giving, I've put down here love stance versus transactional stance. So in order to give in a relationship, it's important to embrace the stance of love, the position of love. From this position, both partners can give from their own free will, and not because they feel pressured or compelled to do so. A transactional stance could involve a partner saying, "If you do this for me, I'll do that for you." So if you mow the lawn for me, I'll cook dinner for you. That might happen like once or twice, but if it's the basis upon which giving is provided in your relationship, what you have is business and not a relationship. And what that could lead to is resentment, because one party could be feeling like, I'm doing things I don't actually want to do. So what you want is given that is done from a stance of love. Now, obviously, in a relationship, you're not going to, or in life in general, you don't always get to do what you want to do when you want to do it. So the relationships are about compromise, about give. Sometimes you get your way, other times your partner gets their way. You might not like doing dishes, but because you love your partner and you don't want them to be overworked, they've done the cooking. Because you love them, then you choose to do the dishes, even if you don't like doing the dishes. So that's what I mean by a love stance versus a transactional stance. So they don't have to bargain with you and say, "Oh, if you do the dishes, I'll do the cooking." You don't need to do that, because you will voluntarily and from your own free will, you will choose to do the dishes because you love your partner and you don't want them to be overworked. Okay? So when given, choose to do it from a love stance as opposed to a transactional stance. Next tip is, when given, it's important that you consider their need versus your need, right? So when given, the person you're given to really is the one who will let you know what they need. You must take the time to consider what your partner needs and when they need it. Timing, like I've said in previous videos, is of the utmost importance in relationships. If your partner, let's say she's female, and she needs a listening ear because she's had a hard day at work, but then you are having a busy day, and you decide that because you have a busy schedule, you can't provide her with a listening ear right now, but you can do so in 2 weeks' time. When 2 weeks comes, she'll have a completely different set of needs, and you would have missed out on the opportunity to create that reservoir of love within your relationship. She will feel um, she'll feel neglected and unappreciated and unloved because when she needed you to listen, you did not take that time out to listen. So at that point in that particular situation, it's about considering what they need and then seeing whether you're going to place it above what you need. So you might have a tight schedule, but is it possible that you could fit them in now? Is it possible that you could stop what you're doing or say to them, I'll be with you in a few minutes. If you can give me some time, I just need to send this email or I need to make this call and I'll be with you. It's about that communication. I know that life, sometimes you can't necessarily drop everything to attend to your partner. But when you can, it's important that you do so because it builds that reservoir of love within the relationship. So it's based on their need and not your convenience. Okay? And then finally, when given, it's important to embrace the position of all or nothing. So I've put down here all or nothing versus 50-50. So what this means that sometimes people decide to go into relationships, but they just give 50%. So they give you 50% of their heart. They give you 50% of their ears. So your partner's talking to you. You look like you're listening, but you're sending an email at the same time. You look like you're listening, but you're sending a text at the same time. So they don't feel like they have all of your attention. So it's you've given 50-50. You say you've given them your heart, but their reservations, their walls, and they feel that. When your partner notices that, which they will do because you are in a relationship, instead of creating a reservoir of love, what that will do is create a wall within the relationship. It will create thorns. It will create conflict. So although you've given 50, you might as well not have given anything because the 50% that you have given will cause them to feel resentful because you haven't given all of yourself. So you have to go into that relationship and go into the mindset of giving with an all or nothing approach. So you're either going to give it or you're not. It's just better that way. Either you're going to give your time, either you're going to give your ears, your heart, you're going to give the gifts, whatever it is. If it's a financial gift, a material thing that they require, you're going to do it properly or you're not going to do it at all. So the question really is to give or not to give. Are you going to be given in your relationship or are you going to be taken from the relationship constantly without giving will deplete the relationship. But when both parties give on a mutual basis from a place of love, from a place of free will, then it builds up a reservoir of love in both partners and within the relationship. Okay, so I do hope you found that useful. By all means, please feel free to subscribe, share this video, like it, provide your comments in the comments box. I'd love to hear from you. And if you've made any mistakes, perhaps when it comes to giving, let's hear from you. Put your comments in the comments box and we will, we'll be happy to hear from you. Okay? Until next time, do stay safe and take it easy. Goodbye.